Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the final match in our Record of Ragnarok versus Bleach tournament, and it is the Battle of the Sigma Males. In the red corner, we have Poseidon, the King of the Ocean, and in the blue corner, we have Hashfald, the Grand Master of the Quincy. Now, is there really a theme outside of them both just being like stoic Sigma males and both being blonde? Not really. Did I also make up this matchup because I really wanted to talk about Jugram? Possibly. But what's more important is that if you enjoy Bleach power scaling or versus content, that you slap a like on this video and subscribe to the channel because that's basically all we do over here. But if you're just absolutely starving for more content, you can click that join button where I upload debates in the past live streams. And I have been getting on the ball with uploading more debates and trying to stream more for you members. So, it's becoming more worth it. The value's definitely accruing over there. Because I will definitely admit there was a time that there was kind of a drought of content for members. But I have fixed that. I am now debating more and I am now streaming more. So there's more content for you fellas over there. But with that being said, you guys know how we do these videos. We go over the strength, speed, and abilities of both of our combatants, and then we talk about who would win if they were to enter the arena together. Also, do not misunderstand, this is not the end of the Record of Ragnarok versus Bleach tournament, because we still have like 400 billion more fighters to go. They're just in the manga. I'm gonna wait for season 2 to come out if it comes out. I don't know if you guys know, but the Record of Ragnarok anime was not very well received. Just go read the manga. It's like 1,000 times better. But that is when we will continue the tournament, so maybe this will be on infinite hiatus, maybe it actually will ever get finished. But so far, Bleach is in the lead by a pretty large margin. But can the Ragnarok team bring it back and tie everything up? That would be very suspenseful if that happens, but I don't know. Jugram is a pretty powerful opponent, and speaking of Jugram, let's just dive right into both of our combatants, starting off with Jugram. Now, Jugram is one of those characters that actually doesn't get a whole lot of love, despite him having some really good showings throughout the series. Although, I personally believe it's like a misunderstanding of what he actually does, because the first thing he does is snaps Fullbring Bankai Ichigo's Bankai like it was an absolute toothpick, and again, I feel like people lose how powerful this is because they don't actually understand how strong Fullbring Bankai Ichigo is. Because sure, people understand that Byakuya, Kenpachi, Toshiro, all the Shinigami were sent to back up Ichigo, but were also sent to kill him if he decided to team up with Ginjo in rebellion against the Soul Society. However, what people fail to realize is how impressive Ichigo's Fullbring was. They missed the quite literal dozens of statements from Ginjo and Tsukishima that he was going to regain all of his Shinigami powers. And yes, this does include the power of Dangai Ichigo. Again, I feel like people really overflate how powerful Dangai is, when really the Dangai Ichigo form is just Ichigo doing 3 months of training. The big main wham deal is Mugetsu. That's what you should be like really impressed with. That's when Ichigo becomes Getsuga, has like a transcendent power level. He's in potential higher dimensions. Dangai Ichigo is just Ichigo with 3 months of training with Zangetsu. Feasibly, it's a form he could reach at any time. In fact, he just reaches it earlier because he has basically a hyperbolic time chamber in the Dangai Precipice world. So when Tsukishima and Ginjo are like, you're going to regain the powers you lost, and we know that Tsukishima and Ginjo actually know of Transcended Aizen and Dangai Ichigo, because Tsukishima plants the memories of him beating Transcendent Aizen in Orihime and Chad's memories, which he would have to know about to plant in their memories, and Ichigo never told any of them about that. So somehow they knew about that. I don't know if they were hiding behind a rock watching the entire battle go down. All we know is that they know. And we can't even say that he learned from Chad and Orihime's memories because they never saw Transcendent Aizen either. So that's not even a rebuttal to his knowledge either. So he did know. He makes the claim. Fullbring Ichigo himself was a big deal. Then he merges with his Shinigami powers, becomes even stronger, puts a Bankai on top of that, and then Hashfald snaps that Bankai like a toothpick. And if anything, this level of power is somewhat consistent for him because of the people that Jugram fights. Him killing Kangdu and BG9, that's great and all. The main thing is that he's able to kill Basby, and that he's able to beat up Uryu for like 12 hours straight. Both of these characters have some scaling to true Shikai Ichigo, who's also stated to surpass his Dangai self as well. Funnily enough, in that statement, by the way, where Yuha says you've regained your past powers, he shows the image of Ginjo and them doing the Fullbring training, so that's also, a pretty big nod to Fullbring Ichigo being a really big deal. But the reason I say this also gives him scaling to True Shikai Ichigo as well, and that it's consistent, is that Basby was the only one of like the 7 Sternritter that True Shikai Ichigo was fighting before he went up to the Soul Palace that actually got Ichigo's attention. Robert pulls a Glock and puts it up against his head, Meninas tries to punch Ichigo, none of them actually do anything. But then Basby does the teleport behind you, nothing personal kid, points at Ichigo, and Ichigo's actually shocked and like, I gotta block this attack. It's also consistent because Basby's able to fight Renji, who Renji, after his training, is considered to be a rival to Ichigo. And even if you don't buy Ichigo and Uryu's little encounters where they kind of scuffle with each other, there's also the fact that Uryu's able to stab Yoruichi with his arrows, and Yoruichi's able to have a pretty decent bout with Askin, you know, the guy that dropped True Shikai Ichigo with his abilities. So if anything, it's pretty consistent for Jugram to be this high, to even be in this like Dangai Ichigo, True Shikai Ichigo level, which gives him access to some pretty good scaling. I mean, not only is Dangai Ichigo stronger than 4th Fusion Aizen, who is said to have transcended all hollows in Shinigami, which would include characters like Bankai Yamamoto, who just by passively existing was threatening to destroy the Soul Society, which at bare minimum is a multi-solar system sized realm since it contains dozens of stars. But if you want to believe that Mukin is actually connected to the Soul Society, and Yamamoto destroying the Soul Society would destroy Mukin as well, which is stated to be infinite in terms of its size, this would actually be an infinite 3D feat. 4th Fusion Aizen also has some jargon about being a higher dimensional being before the Mugetsu stuff. So if you want to buy into that, or even say that Jugram just blatantly scales to the higher forms of like say Mugetsu and 5th Fusion Aizen as well, then you could actually say he's like a 4th dimensional entity, which wouldn't be too much cap actually, because Jugram actually gets Yuha's powers whenever Yuha goes night-night. And funnily enough, we know that Yuha is going to use the shadows to destroy all the realms, and when Jugram makes his appearance to fight Uryu, he actually summons the shadows behind him. So if anything, Jugram, when he inherits those abilities, might just be as strong as that Yuha that's going to destroy all the realms, which again, at baseline, he's destroying some infinite-sized realms. That would be infinite 3D, but I don't know, there's some stuff like the Dawn guy that's said to be a separate time space. So if there's separate time spaces, i.e. there are different 4th dimensional constructs in the Bleach universe that Yuha is going to destroy, this would more concretely put them at 4D. And again, if you want to use the Aizen statements, maybe even 5D. So Hashfald is kind of a beast, to say the least. He's really strong. And it all stems from people not understanding how strong Fullbring Ichigo is. Isn't that crazy? He's also pretty quick as well, easily reaching into like the 2 million FTL range, if not much higher, since he would scale to True Shikai Ichigo. Being able to fight people, again, like Basby and Uryu, who can fight with True Shikai Ichigo and can keep up with him. For those of you that have not seen like the 50 other videos where I talk about speed, it basically comes from the Mime Hage and the Ash Wallen. The reason those are so impressive is that Ichigo's traveling at borderline light speed, if not faster, for about 12 hours. That would make the gap between the Soul Palace and the Soul Society pretty dang big. It's actually been calculated to being like numerous solar systems in terms of the gap between the two realms. And then you have stuff like the Mime Hage and the Ash Wallen actually traveling that in like 2.5 seconds. And not only do characters like Latato react to that, but Yuha, base Yuha mind you, reacts to it. Ichigo's able to fight with base Yuha, Uryu can react to base Ichigo, and then Jugram can keep up with someone like Uryu. So it's pretty simple in that front. You might be able to make some infinite speed meme if you want to say that like Yuha should be able to react to the shadows that travel across like infinite dimensions to destroy the various realms, and Jugram can use those same shadows that can move at like infinite speeds. But then we have his abilities, which it's stated pretty consistently that he and Yuha have the same power set. In fact, when Yuha gives the Almighty to Jugram when he goes nap-nap, Jugram actually just says blatantly, wow, it's a real pain to get his Majesty's powers and be able to see the future. And then we also know that he gets the same shadow powers because when he's walking to confront Uryu, he has the shadows like morphing behind him. But then let's also not forget his main Sternritter ability, the Balance, which is pretty broken. It's actually said by Hashfall that it's a better ability for combat than the Almighty, because what it does is basically you do any misfortune to Hashfall, which is a super broad term. You know, let's say you cut him, you poison him, you try to shoot him with a gun. Basically, any of that misfortune is taken from Hashfall, put on his shield, and then he can take the misfortune that's on that shield and put it back on you. So essentially he just shifts the damage around, so he's perfectly fine, and you just take all the damage or misfortune that you just tried to put on him. I would also like to note that he bare hand catches one of Basby's holy arrows, and we know that these holy Quincy arrows erase hollows from existence. So Haspholt actually should have a resistance to existence erasure as well, since he can bare hand catch something that erases beings from the cycle of reincarnation. So all in all, Haspholt is a pretty powerful opponent, but how does his rival Sigma male Poseidon hold up in this fight? Poseidon, on the other hand, is pretty easy to cover, because a lot of his stuff is your interpretation of a lot of the statements that we've got in Record of Ragnarok. Basically, it comes down to how much of a rival do you think he is to Zeus? Because they say that he's like the Zeus of the sea, so that's where they start the comparison. But then as Poseidon begins to fight longer and longer in the fight, they start to call him the god of gods, which you would assume is them like putting him on that same pedestal. If they're saying among the gods, you are a god. Then there's also the scene where he kills Adamas, and after he kills Adamas, he tells the other gods of Olympus to never speak of Adamas again and to strike him from history, and they all agree to do that because they don't want to invoke Poseidon's wrath. And the odd thing is that Zeus actually wanted Adamas to succeed in starting a rebellion so he could fight everybody, so why would he agree to Poseidon's demands if going against those would actually incur his wrath, and thus he would get the fight that he actually wanted? It seems really weird that the battle-hungry character doesn't want to fight Poseidon. So there's just some odd things like that here and there. There's also the idea that he's being compared with Zeus, yet the gods don't actually know the true depths of Poseidon's abilities. So he's still being compared with his brother, yet with Zeus they just saw his full power, but with Poseidon they actually don't know what he's fully capable of. So if you do buy into him scaling to Zeus, this actually would be a universal scaling chain for him. Because not only did Zeus just sit inside of the Big Bang very casually and said it was very thrilling, but it stated that he not only created everything, but could destroy everything if it pleased him. Unfortunately, we don't know the actual size of the Record of Ragnarok universe. We don't know if it's infinite, we don't know if it's a multiverse. So that's why it just sits at being universal, because we know, okay, you could destroy the universe, quote unquote, but how big is that universe? We actually don't know at this point. To give some supporting evidence, when Poseidon started going all out against Kojiro, Kojiro had to scan all of creation just to get a firm grasp of how strong Poseidon's true depths were, essentially meaning that Poseidon's full power is the equivalent to all of creation. Again, this would be really impressive if we actually knew how large the Record of Ragnarok universe was. So again, he sits around like universal. He's also not getting very many favors when it comes to speed though, because we know that he's considered to be very fast. In fact, Ares says that he moves like a blur, and Ares never said that about the Adam versus Zeus fight. In fact, he brags that he was able to see the entire fight clearly, except for the fist that surpassed time. Now, this doesn't mean Poseidon scales to that speed, not at all whatsoever. Basically, all this means is that Ares can accurately see Adam versus Zeus where they're moving like at these MFTL plus speeds. Poseidon's considered to be a blur, so he's probably a little faster than that. But then you have the fist that surpassed time that nobody was able to see. So that only scales to Zeus and Adam, not Poseidon at all whatsoever. Unless for whatever reason, we get some new statement for Poseidon that he's also capable of the same thing, or Zeus used at him in the past, or something along those lines. Unless we get some new information, it does not scale to Poseidon at all. Then we get to Poseidon's abilities, and it's kinda lame. They could have done a lot with Poseidon, but they just gave him some lightning attacks and the ability to manipulate water, but he doesn't even really use these very well. He seems to really heavily focus on his raw speed and his raw strength. And even then, he's very slow to open up and use a lot of his full power, because he has to get pushed by Kojiro for his perceived audacity to copy his moves, and then Poseidon just keeps unlocking more and more of his power until Kojiro, finds the depths of it, scans all of it, and then kills him. So unfortunately, his abilities aren't super impressive. I mean, you can say that he exists as a soul, or he can kill souls. He has to have existence erasure, as Zeus does say, that in order to kill somebody in the Record of Ragnarok tournament, you have to completely erase them from existence. But other than that, there's really nothing else we have to go off of. Hopefully, as a side note, we get a Record of Ragnarok data book sometime soon, so we can find out if there's any special properties for the trident that he's using, or to what extent he can manipulate water. I mean, the best thing they said is that it's like the Noah flood from the Bible, which, I mean, cool, that's a global flood, but when you have, like, universal scaling, that really doesn't matter a whole lot. What if he could just drown the universe in water, huh? Wouldn't that be way cooler? But whatever, I'm getting sidetracked. Let's talk about the victor of this match. Which, come on now, it shouldn't be all that difficult to find out who's gonna win. Jugram is going to slide in Poseidon's DMs and slice him to ribbons. It's not even going to be a fight. I doubt he even needs to use any of his abilities. He pulls out his sword, does Poseidon at least that honor of drawing his sword, and then just dices him into ribbons and kills him. GG, it's over. Not only is Jugram just way stronger, but he's also way faster than Poseidon as well. It would be a classic case of the blitz and one-shot. But even if we just did a stats equalize debate, because we extended that courtesy to Shunsui last week to kind of help him out a little bit in his fight with Kojiro, let's extend that same olive branch to our boy Poseidon over here. Well, it really doesn't do a lot of good for him anyway, because Poseidon's abilities suck. Let's just not assume that Jugram pulls out the shadows immediately, and as soon as Poseidon rushes at him, he just nom-noms him with the shadows and just erases him from existence. And let's also just maybe forget about the fact that he has the Almighty, which is like Kojiro's ability, which is what Poseidon got negged by anyway. But in this case, his opponent's actually relative to him, because again, stats equalized. But then every single hit that Poseidon manages to get on Jugram is going to be null and void, because it's just going to go to the friend shield and then it's going to go right back to Poseidon. So there's literally absolutely nothing he can do to get a W in this fight. He just gets raffle stomped by Jugram. But if you disagree, my links are down in the description. You can come to the Discord and we can have a nice friendly discussion about this topic. Although I don't know who is going to disagree and say that Poseidon actually beats Jugram. I have no idea what kind of crackhead you would have to be, but you know, the Discord is down there. We can come have a discussion on it, we can debate on it, but if you come correct, you know, I'll come correct as well. We can have a nice peaceful discussion. But man, if you're gonna come in there with the gloves off and you're gonna waste my time, do not expect Mr. Nice Bleach Hub, okay? The gloves will come off. My Twitch and second channel are also down in the description down below. If you're someone that watches this channel and you're like, man, I really wish Bleach Hub did more Fate content. Well, that's where the second channel and the Twitch are there for, buddy. It's pretty much 100% all FGO content. So you just take your happy butt over to those two links and you just have the time of your life. My Twitter is also linked down in the description down below. I say some things over there sometimes, so you can peep that, give me a follow. You know, help the boy out in his journey to getting a check mark, which will happen in 4.5 million years. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day. Peace, late guys.